Hello and welcome back to Books with Carol Ann. Today we're going to go through the books that I read in April and May. I've combined both of the month because I was away in April because I was sick. So I thought it'd be nice to just go through all of them because surprisingly I didn't read that much even though I was off work. So let's get through them. The first book I read in April was The Secret of Us by Zarin Madia. This book is the second book in the series. I absolutely adore the first one. This is a YA series. First one is called The Story of Us, and this is The Secret of Us. In this one, we follow Izzy and Noah as they meet each other at boarding school and unfortunately have to enter in a fake dating scenario. Unfortunately for Izzy's ex-boyfriend, mostly, everyone else is quite happy about it, including me. I thought that this book was just the perfect coming-of-age story. I don't know, it felt like all of the feelings that you have as a teenager, where you're scared to disappoint your parents and you think that everything is your fault and you just can't seem to get it right. I thought that those feelings were really well done, and you just throughout the whole book you feel them. This made me cry. This has some really sad bits. I don't know why I'm laughing. Zoran, count your days. But I absolutely adored it. All the feelings. These two are so cute. The way he's gone for her as well. Look at how he blushes. That man blushes. Absolutely love it and recommend this whole series. The next book I read in April is Uncharmed by Lucy Jane Wood. I have a proof copy of this, as you might have seen on my Instagram, but I didn't bring it home because I need it for content at work. But I have my rewatch one here. I got to read this extra early and I absolutely adored it. It's so cute. It's in the same world as Rewitched, but it's a sequel. It happens a few years before Rewitched happens. So we see some of the same characters, but they haven't yet had what happens in Rewitch happen to them. And we follow a new cast of characters with new issues. And in this case, the main character is just obsessed with perfection. She believes that in order to fit in order to be liked, in order for everything to go right in her life, and everything has to go right in her life, she cannot bear to have a hair outside of where it's supposed to be. This woman is perfection incarnated. So when something in her life happens where her perfectionism starts to be, broken bit by bit, you kind of see her crash out. And maybe not in the best way always, but you see her deal with it throughout the book and hopefully come to terms with the fact that perfection doesn't exist and none of us are perfect, and there is beauty in imperfection. I really love this book by Lucy Jane Wood. She does it again, honestly. All the feels of nostalgia and pink and girlhood, and yeah, they're all there. They're still there. Love it. Absolutely adore it. The next book I read was The Bun King and the Starling by Elizabeth Stevens. This book was bonkers. It was fun. It was absolutely bonkers. It probably was a bit too gruesome for me personally. In the same way that I would love to read Butcher and the Blackbird, but I can't because it's just too gruesome.
It's just a baby.
Okay. But yeah, no, this book was fun. Basically it kind of happens in like historical fiction style, but think of Vikings more than Bridgerton. And this Bone King comes into the village and rescues the slaves, I guess, and makes one of the slaves his queen, except that he believes that in order to gain her affection, he needs to kill the people that have wronged her in the most brutal manner. And she's probably just as gruesome as I am, so she doesn't really appreciate it. But it's still quite fun, and I do recommend it if that is your kind of thing. I also read The Lair by Lizina Connie. I absolutely have adored every single one of Lizina's books, and this one was no exception, although it was quite different than the other three that I've read from her. In The Lair, we follow the female main character who is actually on the run from something in her hometown. She has changed her name. She tries to not be seen because she has a bit of a recognizable face. Her past, she is the child star of a family YouTube channel where the mom and the parents have both exploited her throughout her childhood in order to get views on YouTube. We've seen this happen multiple times in real life, and I believe from what I've seen that Lizina was really inspired and angry at what happens in real life and just wanted to put this story out there just because she had to get it out of her system. In The Lair, the female main character has basically run away to the other side of the country. She finds the smallest small town ever to kind of maybe stay there for a couple of weeks, a couple of months. She gets a job. She ends up staying there for 3 years, I think, or 2 years. And we kind of see her life as she settles into this small town and falls for her boss. But we also see some flashbacks to her life as a child star and what basically got her to disappearing and running away from her family. I thought this book was brilliant. It had come just after that I watched the Demon in the Family something. I'll put the cover of the movie on it, but documentary, not a movie. It's based on a real story. I read this book a couple of weeks after watching that, so it was all very fresh in my mind. And obviously we see this happening all the time on social media. So it was just really heartbreaking to read this fictional story and know that out there somewhere it's not exactly fictional. So yeah, definitely recommend it. The romance was amazing on top of the really heartbreaking story. You know, she couldn't really trust someone, but she manages to trust him. And his sole purpose in life is to protect the ones that he loves, and he starts protecting her, and it's absolutely beautiful to see. I really recommend this book. Next up, I read Beg, Borrow, and Steal by Sarah Adams. This is the third book in the series. What's the series name? I don't actually know. This comes after When in Rome and Practice Makes Perfect, which I actually read out of order. I read Practice Makes Perfect first and then realized it was a series and went back to read When in Rome. I am back on track now. This is the third book out of 4 books. The next one comes out in, I believe, March or April next year. I really enjoyed it. I think Sarah Adams keeps getting better. I've read other books that are not part of this series from Sarah, and I've loved every single one that I've read, but it's just, you know, when it just keeps getting better and better, and you can see the style in writing just improve as well. And yeah, in this one, we follow Emily, who is a teacher and secretly a romance author, or a budding romance author. She has written a historical romance, has just finished it, and is wondering what to do next. And she unfortunately has a work nemesis, Jack, who's also a teacher, but he moved away, so it's fine. She doesn't think about him at all. And that is until he moves back and she's like, wait a minute, did I miss you, or did I just no, I hate you, duh. So yeah, and something happens where she finally decides that she wants to do something with her writing, so she decides to send it to an agent that she's kind of really been coveting. The agent is in charge of some of her favorite books, so she really just decides to send it out, except instead of sending it to the agent, she sends it to her school principal. Now, thankfully for her, they have just gone away for the summer, so she doesn't think that the school principal is actually going to look at his emails during summer, because why would you? So she goes on a mission to kind of, you know, steal his computer, and who better to accompany her in this thievery life than Jack, her high school teacher nemesis. This is basically the start of the premise, and there's a lot of more things happening. What I loved about this book is that Emily, despite not being the eldest sister, has eldest sister syndrome, where she feels that she has to take care of everyone in order for, you know, herself to then look after herself. And the thing is that, you know, in book one, her brother is now settled. He's with a superstar. They love each other. In book two, her sister now has a husband and they are in love and she no longer needs her. And her other sister is in New York living the dream life and doesn't also need her, barely even calls her anymore. So she just has this void in her heart where she feels like she's no longer needed by anyone in her life, and it just brings this despair to her. And I really enjoyed this character because there is, despite not being an eldest sister myself, there is something about having people need you and then no longer need you that just makes you think about what your status in life and in everyone's life is. And I think that was beautifully done in Beg, Borrow, or Steal. And on top of that, the romance is extra hot. Sarah Adams previously has been a closed door romance writer, and I believe that apart from an extra chapter in Practice Makes Perfect, this is the first published book where she has added steamy scenes and opened the doors. So that was really interesting. She doesn't take it too far. The one thing I didn't mention about this book as well is that Jack is also a writer, except for him, it's a secret. It's a pen name, and no one in his life other than his agent know that he is a very successful writer. That is until ... I really recommend this book and this series and Sarah Adams in general. And look how cute this cover is. The Baby Dragon Cafe. I was really excited to read this book. Look how cute it is. You know, I love a dragon, and what is cuter than a dragon? A baby dragon. So yeah, I was really excited to read this book. I really enjoyed it. I wouldn't say that the romance was really romancing for me, but I was in it for the dragons and just for the story of how the baby dragon is gonna grow up and finally be able to fly and everything that goes with it. I did love the cafe owner. I thought she was super sweet. And Aiden, the dragon owner, I thought he was kind of made grumpy to be grumpy. I didn't necessarily understand some of his reasonings for things, but I did like that he came around with the dragon and that we got to see all of them blossom together. One thing that did really bother me. And this might have been because I was high on drugs at that point, because I was reading this while I was in the hospital. But I was reading this on ebook. But on the cover, you can see that the two windows are dragons. But then I'll put the cover now that shows up now everywhere on the paperback, the ebook, and everywhere else. In the window, there's a couple. And it drove me crazy because I don't know. I thought I was going crazy, and I was sure that there had just been dragon wings in the windows, and then I was seeing the couple and I was like, wait, do the dragon wings look like a couple? The couple looks like dragon wings? What is happening? Yeah, so I'm glad I wasn't just going crazy, and I think they just switched the cover maybe halfway through because maybe they wanted to pinpoint the romance a bit more than what this cover showed it, because this just looks like dragons. There's not a single human on here, whereas obviously with the other cover, you can see that they are humans and they're in love, they're having a date. So yeah, interesting decision. So like I said, I was in the hospital for part of April, only 4 days, but 4 days is a long time when you have nothing else to do but lay in a bed. So Becca suggested that I read a doctor-inspired romance because, you know, there are hot doctors at the hospital. So I read Dr. Grant by Katerina Mora. This was an interesting read. I would say that it was the right amount of distraction that I needed while being ill. But also, I think it wasn't necessarily for me. I hadn't realized that it was actually classified as erotica. So kind of awkward to read when there are people, you know, just everywhere around. It makes me feel like I was doing something really bad while, you know, being surrounded by the public, which I'm not, because, you know, everyone can read whatever they want whenever they want. But yeah, it just felt a bit awkward. I haven't even told you what this book is about. Basically, the male main character is a doctor. He gets made redundant at the start of the book and has to find another job. So he finds a job in a university as being the university doctor. The female main character is the granddaughter of this massive company chief operating officer, CEO, chief executive officer, and he owns multiple medical companies as well as a university. So he is the boss of the male main character, Dr. Grant. And the female main character and Dr. Grant, they meet because the female main character is trying to build an engineering company that is all about creating a new type of sex toys. And just before they meet, she is testing her latest prototype to ensure that it does the job well while being incredibly discreet. Unfortunately for her, it does do the job well. It is very discreet, but it won't come out. So she has to go to her university doctor in order to get it out. She has tried multiple things to get it out before getting to the place where she's like, okay, I need help. But you know what? She does go to the doctor. So the meet cute is that Dr. Grant has to remove a sex toy from inside her vajayjay. Yeah. Let's just say that things go really well for her. Yeah, she's quite happy when she's there. They quite enjoy that meet cute, I'll say. it's a good start to the book. The next book I read is Between Friends and Lovers by Shirlene Obuobi. I am not a love triangle person, but I loved this book. First of all, the cover is gorgeous, which is the entire reason I bought this book, because, I mean, I bought it on Kindle, but I will be purchasing a copy for my trophy case. The cover is gorgeous. I knew nothing about what this book was about. I never read a blurb, almost never read a blurb. And in this case went totally blind. I did not know it was going to be a love triangle, but you can kind of imagine from the cover. I mean, there's 3 people on there. Most romance books have 2 people on there. Do the math. In Between Friends and Lovers, we meet Dr. Jojo, a social media doctor who uses her platform to inform people of all things medical, but also uses it for her own personal life, lifestyle, fashion, etc. She has gained quite a following, and especially because her best friend is Ezra, the son of a 90s super famous supermodel, and so he's got quite a following of himself, for himself, because he's now an actor, and obviously he takes his best friend Dr. Jojo to a couple events, so together they have grown a bit of a following. They're recognizable, etc. They've been friends for over 10 years because Dr. Jojo saved Ezra's life when they were at university, and ever since he's kind of taken her under his wing, and they've been best friends ever since. And Dr. Jojo has always kind of had a thing for him, and she, at the start, the first chapter, she actually opens up about her feelings to him, because she just has enough. Something happens with his current girlfriend, and she's just like, enough, what are we? Yeah, kind of, because his reaction, not what you want. So she kind of, you know, goes off, needs a minute, because this all happens at a party. She needs a minute to kind of cool down and get back to her senses, and so she goes to rest in a room. In enters Malcolm, the very shy author, who just happens to be in the room that she wants to disappear in, and she thinks, well, what better than a rebound? So yeah, you kind of see the relationship grow between Ezra and between Malcolm, and how the dynamics work together. But also Dr. Jojo has her own life issues happening at the same time, and she's just not sure where to go from here, and just what is going to happen to her account, to her doctor license, university job, all of that stuff. It's written really well. I was not expecting to enjoy a love triangle this much, because I just never have before. And yeah, I wasn't sure which way it was gonna go until the end, and I still enjoyed it. So that says a lot about the writing and just how engrossed in the story I was. One thing I will point out I really enjoyed is that Dr. Jojo's was in first POV, and then we had Malcolm in third POV, and I thought that was really interestingly done. I don't think I'd ever seen that before, and I really enjoyed it. The next 2 books that I read were On Wings of Blood and The Bond That Burns Us. So as this is a series and it's ongoing, I won't talk too much about the second book to avoid any spoilers, but I'll tell you about the first book and the bit of setting and how much I enjoyed it. So On Wings of Blood is a dark academia with fae, dragons, vampires, and magic. I think that's it. I think that's enough. I really enjoyed this book. So basically the premise is that the vampire prince finds a girl in the middle of a village that has been decimated by death. And he brings her back to the kingdom, and basically to be able to decide what to do with her. The reason that he did that is because she has red hair. That's one of the only reasons. Because in this kingdom, in this world, all the vampires have blonde hair. No matter what ethnicity they are, no matter where they come from, all the vampires are blonde. All the humans have brown hair. And this woman comes in and she has red hair. So she stands out. She obviously doesn't come from either vampire or humans. So there are a lot of questions about her, who she is, what she is, where she comes from, all of that. Turns out that they believe she might be the sole dragon rider on this planet, in this world. But we know from the get-go that she comes from another world, and she is Fae. No one else knows that though. So that's her secret to keep. It doesn't seem that they have Fae in this vampire world. So very different. And because she might be a dragon rider and because she's different, the king decides to assign her to his nephew, the prince who found her. And so they are due to be married. In this world, every vampire has 2 partners. Everyone is a bit of a trouble. Remember what I said about love triangles? Yeah. So everyone is a trouble. So she is just one of his potential to-be wives. So that brings, drama of itself. But also they decide that because she's a dragon rider, she's never seen a dragon. No one has seen a dragon because they've been extinct for hundreds and hundreds of years. No one has seen them. As far as they know, they no longer exist. But the fact that a potential dragon rider has just dropped on their lap, maybe the dragons are coming back. Who knows? Those are the questions that we're left with in the first few chapters. And they decide that she needs to learn the ways of this world, so they enroll her in, I think it's called Bloodwing University, where she's going to learn how to fight. She's going to learn the history of the vampires, the dragons, and everything that goes along with this world. So I really enjoyed this book. I, again, had not read the blurb. I saw dragons and I was like, yay, dragons. So I just went into it blind. And as soon as I finished that first book, let me tell you that I was on Amazon ordering the next book, because what do you mean? What do you mean? And now I'm left in this current state of mind because there's a book 3, but I don't have it. So hopefully I can get my hands on it soon and I can read it and I can answer all of the questions that I have. I have a hard time thinking that all my answers will be answered in one book. So maybe there are more books coming, but I don't know. I haven't investigated to know whether this was a trilogy, a quartology, I don't know what these are called. 4 books, 5 books, 6 books, I don't know. But I need answers. And I need them now. So, yeah. If you enjoy Dark Academia, if you enjoy vampires, if you enjoy Fae, if you enjoy University, if you enjoy people actually killing each other and no knife to the throat and fights and drama and troubles, then you're in the right place. This is the book for you. Then I read Caught Up by Navessa Ellen. Different vibes, but kind of also the same. No, kidding. There are no vampires, no faes, and no dragons in this book. So in Caught Up, you've got Junior, who's part of the mafia, but really wanting out. We met Junior back in Lights Out, where he helped them get out of their situation, and he kind of gets into his own situations in Caught Up. And we also meet Lauren, who is a sex worker on OnlyFans and also part owner of a really cool sex club that happens in Chicago. And Lauren happens to be Junior's ex from when they were in high school, except they broke up in very non-amicable situation, kind of ruin your life things. I believe that is explained in the first few chapters, but there's a bit of trauma, there's a bit of history there. It's not totally digested. Except we find out that Junior has basically looked after Lauren her entire life to make sure that she was set for and had the things that she wanted, except that she thought that I was just her insanely good luck. And he was doing these things in the dark where no one would see and no one would know it was him, and no one would know that they were linked, because that could bring issues. I really enjoyed this book. I had a great time reading Lights Out. I thought it was hilarious. It was a dark rom-com and I just had such a great time. I was laughing so much. So there was a lot to live up to with Caught Up, and I would definitely say that it's less funny. The humor isn't there as much, though there are some really good side characters, and I just love the entire book. And Josh also comes into play, and although he felt a bit caricatured in this book to me, but maybe it's just because I wasn't seeing the humor in this book, so it just felt a bit out of place. I thought the sex work and the representation of that was really well done. The fact that there is not a single moment where there was any shame about it. It was just done really nicely with the protection that you would need, and you know, the boundaries and all of that. And yeah, I thought that was lovely. I've read previous romance books where the sex work element just wasn't done as well, and I just really enjoyed it in this book. Just how much she owned it and how much she was proud of it, and proud of the entire business that she had created. Honestly, in awe of her. And yeah, the one thing I was disappointed about is that on the cover, you can see he's got a bike helmet. He does have a bike in the book, but it's not really a plot line. There's nothing really, I don't believe that she even gets on his bike at any point. So yeah, I was a little disappointed that there was not more bike action, considering it's the entire cover. But I liked it. I really liked the book. I thought it was really fun. So definitely catch up to it. No, that didn't work. Read it when you can. And finally, I read Fear the Flames by Olivia Rose Darling. I was not meant to read this book at this time. I started another book that I had to read for work, and I was scrolling on Threads, and the author posted artwork of this series, and I stopped, went out of the app, went on Amazon, and ordered this book. I don't know, am I allowed to put in the artwork? I'll put in the credit and the author, but I have to show you this artwork because maybe it'll make you want to read this book as well. But basically, I had to stop everything and read this, and I read it in like 2 or 3 days. It's not that big actually, so that does a bit less impressed with myself now that I'm seeing it in person. I read it on ebook. Actually, I think it's on KU, and I loved it so much that I ordered the book because it was $5.50 on Amazon, so I had to. In this book, we follow Elowen, Princess Elowen, who was born in a kingdom as a princess. Everything was going so well for her, except that for her first birthday, kingdoms and queendoms from all around the world came to see her and celebrate her for her first birthday. And it turns out that someone brought a prophecy that was to say that she would be the queen of dragons and be the downfall of her kingdom. Something like that. But basically what happened is that her parents were like, not on my watch. So they locked her up. They locked their 1-year-old up. And at the same party, someone brought in dragon eggs and she revived them, which, you know, probably made the prophecy seem a lot more real. So they locked her and her dragons up. So fast forward 25 years later, Elowen is now a runaway. She was able to get away from her kingdom and escape when she was about 11 or 12 years old, and she has been on the run ever since, trying to hide from her kingdom because her parents still want her dead. So we find her living her life in a small town and doing little acts of robbery, little acts of rebellion here and there, and up until the perfect revenge drops into her lap in the form of Caden, a very tall, dark, and handsome commander who has the perfect plan for her to get her dragons back and get rid of her kingdom. So they form an unlikely alliance, and it brings a whole slew of issues. What I loved in this book is we love female rage. We love a woman who is going to claim her vengeance. We also love found family, and this book has a really strong element of that. There is also a lot of softness in this world. Even though this book is filled with you know, war and battles and vengeance and rage, there is also quite a few moments of tenderness and friendship and love, and it's just, I love when you get those two elements in a fantasy book, because you can't just be at war 24/7. Or maybe you can. If I had a nickel for the fantasy books where they boinked in a tent in the middle of war, I'd have 2 pennies. But it's weird that it happened twice. Actually, I'm pretty sure it's happened 3 times now in books. Or more. What is it with tents and war and making you horny? This is only the first book. The second book comes out in a few months. And you bet your sweet little bum that I will be trying to get into Zafre's DMs and see if I can get a proof of the second book, because I need answers. I need more. Again, I don't know whether this is a duology or a trilogy or a sexology. But I need more. I need more of Caden. I need more of Elowen. I need more of everything, and I need more dragons. There are 5 dragons in this book. They all answer to her. So yeah, I'm gonna need to see how this happens. And this is everything that I read in April and May. As you can hear, I'm still a little bit ill. Hopefully at some point I can go back to the weekly videos and I'll feel a lot better and have more energy to be able to do this. Let me know if you've read any of the books that I talked about today and what your thoughts were on them, and if I made you want to read any of them, let me know in the comments as well. So far we are 8 days into June and I haven't finished a single book, so maybe I'll do a June and July compiled one as well. We'll see what happens. But yeah, thanks for watching and see you next time.